And tonight, long-term presidential aspirant Alan Kojo Chermatin loses his temper as he dissents heavily on the leadership of his own governing New Patriotic Party for condoning what he describes as indiscipline and the alleged attacks on his polling agents at the just-ended Special Delegates Conference.
I'm frankly very disturbed about what has happened. The party must not put a shine on this kind of incident.
And as 200,000 more delegates of the NPP head to the polls to choose the next leader of the party, Alan Cash says he's had enough of the attacks, but the party is already taking remedial measures.
Our agent was so terribly attacked. Right now, he has a bloodied right eye. And as I speak to you now, he's in hospital.
You can't beat a party member. We're all one family. Why are you going to beat your fellow family member? It's not allowed.
An attack on one agent of the party is an attack on all agents.
And top story, as always, is brought to you by Vodafone. Further together, I'm Blessed Guy. Tonight, we know that he's noted for being calm, collected, and keeping composure in almost all of his public appearances. But the sudden turn of events from the just-ended Special Delegates Conference of the New Patriotic Party has angered former Trade and Industry Minister and presidential hopeful Alan Kojo Chermatin, who's now mincing no words in condemning the alleged attacks on some of his polling agents. Throughout the early hours of today, the NPP's election committee has been busy probing circumstances accounting for the anti-party conduct of some of its members when delegates formed a special electoral college to shortlist 5 out of 10 aspirants seeking to lead the NPP and to find its flag bearer. So today these engagements happened, and present were some of the presidential aspirants, including Kennedy Ohene-Japong, who was equally hauled before the committee. At the end of the day, of course, there's mounting pressure on the top leadership of the party to take some action against the Northeast Regional Chairperson of the party, Nuruddin Hussaini. He has been accused of masterminding brutal attacks on agents, especially that of Mr. Alan Kojo Chermatin, who's been airlifted to Accra for special treatment. Let's get more on that engagement to transpired throughout the day at the party's headquarters. My colleague Samuel Mpura has been monitoring that for us all throughout the day. Sami, it's great to have you on with us. We know that 2 separate engagements took place at the headquarters of the governing New Patriotic Party. First is the decision of the election committee to hold some of the party members for engaging in anti-party conduct, as they're describing it. There's also a meeting with all of the presidential aspirants. So let's start off with the list of persons who are likely to face sanctions. Do we have the full list of individuals who've been hauled today before the committee?
We don't have that, but the party is still going with the earlier list that was issued. We know that 4 people, including Hobson Adoye from the Alan Chermatin's camp, was part of the names that the party mentioned for misconducting themselves. So that issue, the details of it have not been discussed because the disciplinary committee is going to look into that, which is chaired by the Roads and Highways Minister, Mr. Amwako Asa. So details on that has not been made known yet. We are still trailing on that. But the main event that happened at the party head office was the engagement with the aspirants.
And we know that now there's also that meeting that you're just talking about, the meeting with the presidential aspirant. But even before that, there's pressure mounting on the leadership of the party to take action against the Northeast Regional Chairperson of the NPP. And some of the assigns of Alan Kojo Chermatin, we understand, featured in that meeting too. Who's been speaking to you?
So Mr. Ohene is his spokesperson. He said that the act by the Northeast Regional Chairman is anti-party. They are expecting that the party would take sanction or take steps to sanction all those corporates behind it. So that was the dominating issue at the party headquarters here. It's like all the aspirants, we've not heard from Bamia's camp yet, but the 9 aspirants shared similar sentiments and then agreed with the position of Mr. Ohene, who spoke to us after the engagement with the party elections committee. His point is that their agent is currently in the hospital in Accra here and then facing serious brutalities or serious injury after that attack on him on the Saturday election. So he says that the party should act quickly to avoid the challenges that are likely to come out as a result of that.
Was the second person who also tamperinted and was going to do that the agent basically moved forward to confront the delegate that you couldn't do this, and then it got into a physical scuffle where our agent was so terribly attacked. Right now, he has a bloodied right eye, and as I speak to you now, he's in hospital. We've flown him to Accra. Honorable Chamating has accompanied him to see an eye specialist, and they are right now attending to him. Apart from the physical display, public display of the unprinted ballots, there were issues of the basically regional executives organizing the camping of especially constituency chairmen who formed an important part of the voting delegates and so on now.
And we know that this is not the only forum, Mbura, that the concerns about attacks on, polling agents have been raised. Even at the meeting with the presidential aspirants, we understand that that's also featuring on the table. What else do we know about the concerns being raised by the others?
So, aspirant Kojo Poku also indicated that the evidence on the attacks have been presented to the Elections Committee for further actions. We can listen to him briefly.
All the concerns were about Northeast. That was Northeast, yes. Others have minor issue, but most of the concerns is Northeast. Northeast is where Narugu is where the problems happen. That's where the Allen agent was beaten. That is where my agent felt intimidated. That is where Ken's agent was chased away. So Northeast is where the problem is, and we think we need to resolve that problem before.
So this meeting was just basically for you to present your evidence before
no, not evidence. To have a conversation on what has happened on Saturday. Then going forward, what can the party do better? The election committee has done a good job. But for us to be able to make sure that November 4th goes smoothly, we need to look at the areas where it's not going well.
So that's Kojo Poku. He is unfortunately lost out in this race. But who else shared the view and the concern that Kojo Poku has?
So the views of Kenwood Nowusu, who is the campaign spokesperson for Afia Koto, were not different from the other aspirants. He believes that an attack on one aspirant is an attack on all.
If any one agent is intimidated anywhere, it affects all other agents. Okay? An attack on one agent of the party is an attack on all agents. So we are not going to isolate any case, probably because my agent has not suffered an attack or violence. An attack on the agent of any candidate is an attack on all of us.
So what is the collective decision from the aspirants? Do you have a collective?
We haven't taken any collective decision. The party is collecting reports and will review the reports.
So now we're clear in our minds that majority of the aspirants, including even some of the party members, share the view and the opinion that the party must crack its whip on the Northeast Regional Chairperson of the NPP. We're not certain if indeed it was directly involved in the attacks, but Mbura, what are the marching orders now from the party?
So the party has not given us details. Mr. Afeya Martin, who is the spokesperson of the election committee, just 5 minutes ago, addressed the media and said the concerns have been taken and they would take the rightful measures to address them. But we know that Kennedy Japan, who was captured in the viral video, venting his anger publicly, was part of them who came here. So he came with some of his agents that he reported or he said they were attacked and intimidated at the polling station. One of them from the Bono East region came with a brace, a neck brace, to show as a proof that he was indeed attacked in line of duty. So they are done with Kennedy Japan. The committee has concluded its work for today. They'll be announcing the next action that the committee will take to the media subsequently.
My colleague Samuel Mbura with our political desk monitoring that crucial meeting of the election committee for the New Patriotic Party at the party's headquarters. We'll get you updates shortly, but just after he was airlifted to Accra, long-term presidential aspirant Alan Kojo Chemating decided to pay a visit to the alleged party agent who was attacked just at the just ended Special Delegates Congress. Alan is losing his temper as he is now descending heavily on the leadership leadership of his own governing party for condoning what he describes as indiscipline and the alleged attacks on polling agents. As over 200,000 delegates head to the polls in November to choose the next leader of the party, Alan Cash says he's had enough.
What happened to my colleague on Saturday was an act of total indiscipline and indecent behavior. How do we, as a decent party, going into an election, particularly at the level of superdelegates, superintend such behavior? I mean, look, we all joined the NPP because of our commitment to the values of the party. But what is happening clearly shows that this is not what we bargained for by joining the party. I'm not going to tolerate this kind of behavior. It doesn't make sense. And when we cannot conduct ourselves as a family, trying to select a leader, in a peaceful and organized manner, how do we intend to be able to do the same kind of process when we have 230 people gathered? 200,000 plus 1,000 people gathered, So I'm frankly very disturbed about what has happened. The party must not put a shine on this kind of incident. And we'll have to try and understand why this should happen in an internal election.
Going forward, November is just around the corner, and we will also go ahead with these delegations. And what do you have to say going forward?
My brother, my interest now is about the health of my colleague here. Let us focus on that. That is why we are here. And then we'll deal with those things at that time. Thank you very much.
And this is the very first time we're seeing Alan Kojo-Kyerematen with an outburst ever since he launched his campaign bid to contest for the flagbearership race of the governing New Patriotic Party. It's the reason for which many are wondering why now and why Alan is alarmed about the happenings within his party. Fortunately, I've been joined by Deputy Spokesperson of the campaign, Richard Nyama, who's joining us on the telephone lines now. Good evening to you, Richard. Thank you for spending some time with us here on Top Story. You're just coming from a special delegates congress which did not favor, going by the figures, your preferred candidate for the NPP's flag bearership slot. Why not work on more strategies to win the ultimate, which has over 200,000 delegates, instead of crying foul, as some would describe it?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. I'm at a loss as to your question of it, the elections not being in our favor. What do you mean by that? You were going for a selection process to prune down the numbers from 10 to 5 to take to the election. Yes, so if you got selected among the 5, what's unfavorable about that? It's like you going to the World Cup. You have a justify your inclusion process. That is what we just went through.
The description.
The World Cup proper is what will show. Your performance there is what will show whether you win or lose. And if you have heard us, we have consistently said that the super delegates process in the first place to us was unnecessary, because it's a waste of the little resources we have as a party. Contesting amongst ourselves and causing unnecessary anger and pain and hate, which would affect the general elections. These are monies we don't have. We're spending it contesting each other. Now, in a week or two time, we are going to have a special delegates conference to choose one person for a 5th position. That's how repugnant the process has been. But the most important is that we are part of the 5. and we have our eye on the ball, which is 4th of November. So I don't see the importance of your question.
Yeah, well, the importance is that based on precedents, anyone within the history of the NPP who wins the Special Delegates Conference ends up, and I'm just saying based on records and facts, that they end up becoming the leading candidate of the parties. The reason for which I was just seeking to find out your thoughts on that.
How many times have we had Special Delegates Conference in the NPP?
But it's happened before. It's not as though it's not happened. In 2014, President Akufo-Addo went...
So if you say any time it happened just once.
Yes, but it did happen.
So you cannot actually point to some consistency or a pattern or a trend, because once cannot be trended. You cannot have a trend analysis based on
well, your take on that, that's your opinion as well, but I'm also speaking to data. But beyond that as well, let's take a look at some of the comments your candidate is making now. When he says that he would not or no longer tolerate indiscipline within the party, what's that supposed to mean?
My brother, do you realize that since this incident happened, it's been 4 days? Have you seen or heard any condemnation officially from the NPP as a party? The NPP as a party has officially not reached out to us, not the person that has the agent that was beaten to pulp and his eye virtually bulged out. Nobody has bothered because it doesn't matter. It is happened to an Alan agent. If it was someone else's agent, we'll hear about it.
Okay.
That the party is calling people. Look, let me point this out to you. Kennedy Ajapong was called to the disciplinary committee based on what? What they saw on TV or some social media, right? Hossein Adoye was hauled there because of what they seen or heard on social media, right? This also played out in the main media, on social media. Corporates are there. They know. And that the youth organizer and the national coordinator nearly lynched this guy. And somehow nobody is bothered because they are Alan's people. And the persons who perpetrated it were the vice president's people. And so there is selective justice here. So
are you,
Richard Nyama, the party doesn't seem to be bothered about us.
Richard Nyama, are you a member of the NPP in good standing? I'm asking the question because you have laid down procedures which the elections committee has put before you, that you and anyone who has grievances could follow the structures as the directive is.
I don't understand your question as to whether I'm in good standing. What do you mean by that?
Apenyumakin held a press briefing yesterday pointing out that you have their doors open to you to adduce evidence, first of all, and to point out what your concerns are. You're a member of the party. You have the opportunity to do that.
My brother, I just pointed out to you that the party is hauling people before the disciplinary committee based on what they have seen and heard on social media. And I've asked you, have you seen or heard a condemnation of this particular act visited on this poor man?
There are procedures. There are procedures.
So
the party says...
We should go to them and say that these are pictures and this, and before the party will condemn it. If he was killed, they will wait to see his grave before they will come and say that they condemn his death. Please, don't justify this.
Okay, and I'm not justifying this. I'm just talking about what your party procedure says, and I was just referring you to that. Just hold on for me, please, because we also have the Deputy General Secretary of the party, Haruna Mohammed, joining us now. Perhaps he has the opportunity now to condemn, as you in the Alan camp would want him to. Good evening to you, sir. Many thanks for spending some time with us here on Top Story. So why is the NPP, why is it taking your party so long? You've issued a statement hauling some people before the elections committee, and yet in all of this you've not condemned the attacks, alleged attacks on some party agents of both Kennedy Ajapong and Mr. Alan Kojo-Kyerematen. Why?
Thank you very much. I would like to say good evening to your cherished listenership and my colleagues on the other side of the conversation. Indeed, we have issued a statement through the General Secretary of the party. In that statement, we said that all those issues that happen at those various centers are unfortunate, and we did not take it lightly in terms of those particular happenings. Some other events were identified for which the General Secretary had to refer some matters to the disciplinary committee of our party. And that did not mean that it was the finality of the issues that were identified within the context of the presidential primaries. The doors of the party is open. Provisions of the party's constitution is open. And complaints such as matters that has been raised by my colleagues on the other side of the conversation can adduce to the party for these matters to be heard.
So which means that effectively...
This party is a national party, and we would be able to deal with all these matters that matter and that will affect the progress of this party.
Effectively, what you're telling us... Just hold on for me, sir. Effectively... Just hold on for me. Effectively, what you're telling us is that the party has not investigated yet and cannot confirm if indeed these individuals have been attacked.
If you look at the party's constitution, the party does not conduct investigation. That is the disciplinary committee, as part of its functions in Article 3(4) of our party's constitution. Article 4 rather, disciplinary and grievance procedures. If you go and read on Article 4, it tells you the functions of the disciplinary committee. And it tells you that, A, investigate complaint concerning the misconduct of a member. It tells you that the party's investigation powers is vested in the disciplinary committee. And until the disciplinary committee does this investigation, members drawn before the disciplinary committee are not charged of any crime until this committee investigates and gets the veracity of these matters. So inviting these persons before the disciplinary committee does not say that these people are criminals or these people are being part of conducting or spearheading the happenings at this particular center. However, the disciplinary committee will investigate those particular misconduct, makes a full, faithful, and impartial inquiry into the complaints, and then report in writing the results of the inquiry and the reasons leading to the conclusions reached by that committee, and make recommendations to the executive committee based on the results of the inquiry.
I get the points there.
The functions that is adduced in the constitution.
Okay. And that Haruna Mohammed is Deputy General Secretary of the party. Richard Nyama, are you confident now that the party is in control and will deal with your concerns?
What we have learned from this very conduct is that we will have to be our own keeper. We'll be prepared and ready on November 4th. We are not going to put our faith in the party because they have shown us that they can't be trusted. They will bring guidelines. The guidelines on the D-Day are flouted and are flouted across the country. Nobody is interested in that. When you are done, they will take you through constitutional processes that end in nothing. So we would make sure that we are ready physically, spiritually, whatever way it is on the D-Day.
What do you say to
wait for anything to repeat itself and then we'll go reporting and having investigations? It's an after effect. Point is that fortunately this is a learning curve. They have taught us the hard way that look, on the day I was being physically malhandled, I reported to the regional police commander who was in the hall with me with over 20 other policemen. I asked him to give us police escort out of the place because our lives were in danger. He told me that his focus was the ballot box.
Okay, right. I get the point.
So we realize that the system is skewed in a particular way, and we realize we can't do nothing about it than to take our destiny into our own hands. So we'll be ready.
I'm grateful. Richard Nyama speaks for the Alan Kojo Chairman campaign. We have a few more minutes to go, but we can't go without hearing from Akbar Yusuf, who's campaigning to the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And for you, Akbar, your candidate was represented in that meeting today at the party's headquarters. Going forward, what message is coming through from both the Vice President, who stands as your aspirant going into the elections?
For us, we were satisfied with the outcome of the Saturday's elections. It was largely peaceful. The rules, according to our information, were enforced. And so we saw, for example, in Ashanti region, the vote of the regional youth organizer was rejected. In the northern region, the vote of the Kumbungu constituency chairman was rejected. And so the rules that were put in place to guide the processes were strictly enforced. And indeed, 4 individuals have been referred to the party's disciplinary committee. The party deputy general secretary has recited the provisions of the party constitution to you. And we are confident in the ability of the party to address these concerns, so that the party would go into November without any hit. We believe strongly in the institutions of the party to be able to address any of these concerns. And we are not going to doubt the impartiality of the party in these matters.
You would often hear that from someone who's in a comfortable lead, but we wait to see what the outcome will be on November 4 when 200,000 delegates of the NPP decide. I'm grateful, Akbar Yusuf, campaign aide to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bamian, also to Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, and Richard Nyama, who speaks for the Alan Kojo-Chermating campaign. That's it for Top Story with me, Blessed Sugan. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more stories. Next,